Welcome to the 150th episode of News Dump,
Woo-woo!
where we run through the hottest topics in the Lewis County news scene and discuss. It's Monday, July 24th. I'm local man Aaron VanTuyl, joined by Chronicle Editor-in-Chief Eric Schwartz, Chronicle Assistant Editor Isabel Vander, Stoep, and Chronicle Photo Editor Jared Nightcrawler Wenzelberger.
Room full of editors.
Just
We're bringing a throwback
here.
for the 150th.
We had to
Jared
bring
was one
back
of our
our-
early co-hosts. Our earliest.
On the first.
Yeah.
Our most requested repeat guest. People are always like, bring Nightcrawler back.
It was first reported on the news dump that TikTok was being banned by Donald Trump. People forget that, but I don't.
Yeah.
It was first reported by the news dump,
Breaking.
which was then posted 2 hours later.
Yes, that's
And
true.
then 3 hours later, somebody listened.
It was us.
We're joined in spirit by sponsors Summit Funding and the Roof Doctor. Can't remember if I mentioned that yet, but how's everybody doing? It was a big pop culture weekend, I think.
Yeah, it was.
It was. We were all four in Tenino for Oregon Trail Days.
Yep.
The biggest pop culture event in
Yeah.
the Pacific Northwest this weekend, for sure.
Absolutely.
Had a really good time announcing that parade with you for a third year. That was great.
You guys
We
did great.
are an institution out there, I think. It's safe to say.
We already got invited back too. She finally responded to that message from the landmark
After
afterwards.
you begged her.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Please have us
exactly.
back.
Some of us had too good of a time on Saturday in Tenino.
Yeah,
was
some
that?
of us did.
Felt
was
it
that?
all day Sunday.
That was you?
No, that was me.
Oh.
It's too much sun. That's all.
Yeah, it was hot out there, up
Yeah.
on the
Oh, yeah.
blinding lights of the
Oh, yeah.
stage.
All
Totally.
that sunlight.
It'll do it.
Totally.
But yeah, it was Barbenheimer weekend.
Oh, we saw Barbie. Not Oppenheimer yet, though.
I have seen Barbie as well, and it was pretty good.
Yeah? Oh, you saw both?
No, I haven't seen either. I said
I've
you've
seen
both.
both. Yeah,
Oh, good for you.
Oppenheimer good, Barbie really good, really funny.
So Barbie's better than Oppenheimer, huh?
Oppenheimer's a better movie. Barbie was more fun.
More fun to watch, yeah.
Oppenheimer, not a fun film. I don't know if you know what it's about.
Hey, it had to be done, Aaron.
Do you think so?
agree, but that
Wow,
does
you
not make
both
it a.
think so.
I do think so, yeah.
It's kind of a punishing movie. Not really punishing, just dramatically intense.
yeah.
It's not The Dark Knight Rises as far as getting your yucks in,
Doesn't really get me that excited.
You know,
I wish it was more like The Dark
I
Knight
actually did
Rises.
cry at the Barbie movie, though.
What?
Yeah, I shed a couple tears.
I guess that doesn't surprise me.
It's emotional. Like there's this, well,
No
I don't want to
spoilers,
spoil
please.
it. Yeah. But it was sweet. I liked it a lot.
I cried for poor Ken, who had it all and then had it torn away from him.
Oh, that reminds me. The guy who plays Ken, the second Ken, he's Asian.
Simu Liu.
Yes, he was at the Taylor Swift concert last night. Just like me.
What a small world.
Yeah.
And how was Taylor Swift?
You guys, you don't even want to get me talking about it on here. It was so much fun. It
All
was
right.
literally the best concert ever.
How long did she stay on stage?
About 3 hours.
3 hours?
She earns those
No,
millions
actually
and millions
more.
of dollars.
Well, no, wait. Because, got on, more than 3, because she got on at 8:20, and we finished at I think 11:55.
Excellent. Jared, you did not go.
I did not go, but I watched through Instagram as
You were the
Isabel
one
posted.
person watching Instagram stories of a concert.
Yeah.
Did you do the whole concert?
Oh, yeah.
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 Okay. Should we get to the news?
Let's.
We shall.
First up, Shahila's couple runs rescue for brutal donkey, 6 dogs, and baby. The lead of the story was quite good. Meet Bob, the ass who got himself in legal trouble in 2014.
Thank you. I worked on that for an hour. Just that sentence.
It's really good. It's a good final sentence.
Yeah, it's good.
I'm not kidding.
This is about Chuck Snipes and his wife, Jenny, who started a lifelong rescue mission. They've got 4 donkeys and 6 dogs. They're off of Jackson Highway, and a baby, of course. One of those donkeys is Bob. He attacked a judge back in 2014. The judge was walking her dog, and Bob just busted down a fence and picked up the dog and started ragdolling it. And then the judge stepped in to try to stop Bob and punch Bob in the face, which is assault, and which prompted the donkey to then grab the judge and lift her off the ground and begin shaking her like a rag doll.
I'm glad there's no suspense this week for Hero of the Week.
No,
Yeah.
usually, they'd put a dog down for this type of thing, but it was a donkey, so they just kind of 86'd him from Seattle. Relatable, really. Anyway, Chuck was looking on Pet Finder and saw Bob and read his story and was a little worried, but also kind of thinking about maybe adopting him. And then Chuck says, then I went and met him, and he was chill. But according to the story, Bob still does beat up dogs sometimes, and they get a little too close. Anyway, this is a cool story about some cool people, and Bob kind of kicks ass.
Yeah, he had, he had neighbors jumping on your story on Facebook to talk about what a gentleman he is.
Yeah.
And that he's never done nothing wrong to them before.
We were having a real rough deadline on Friday. And I would have loved to spend more time with this story, but like I said, spent an hour on the lead, can't spend an hour on the content. But really, like, it was just hard for me to organize and lay out the whole thing. But there was a part of the interview where he said to me that he was asked by his neighbor if their daughter could come over and see the donkey, like feed him carrots or something. And he was like, and he checked with his insurance agent to make sure.
That's pretty funny.
And then he like had her like, say for sure, like, you're not liable if the donkey attacks them. And the donkey's never been anything but lovely to people apparently since.
We met him and he was pretty chill.
Yeah.
Donkeys and dogs have long-term beef. I also learned from this story. They just do not care for one another.
Yeah, donks and dogs don't mix.
I wonder what happened way back in the day.
It's because like the
King ordered it.
Welched on a bed.
The wild borough has like coyotes, cougars, wolves, foxes. Like that's its natural predator. So like stuff that looks like a dog,
That makes sense. And then Chuck quickly is on the dangerous animal designation board, the dad board.
Yes, which is how I met him. When I was doing that series on the dad board, I got a lot of really helpful information from him. And that's also when I met his wife, Ginny. And they're just really sweet people. And then this whole thing came about because Chuck had posted about cutting Bob's hair. He has like I swear this donkey is like one step removed from a wild borough. Like if you look one up, like he looks exactly like it. And he has this thick matted hair. And so Bob's like, you must be hot. All the other donkeys like shed. So he just cut his hair. He like cut all of it for him, which I thought was very sweet. And he posted about it and then put the link to that Seattle Times story. And I was like, this is incredibly crazy. I need to write something about it. So yeah, it was fun. Really nice talking to them, too. I mean, we stayed there for a long time. I could have stayed all day.
It's a good story for Saturday, what with all the other murder on the front page and such.
Yeah. Do you guys want to talk about the murder case? Maybe just...
Yeah, we can, I guess. I'm going to leave it to Isabel.
Jared. No, ask Jared about it. He's the one who was there for most of it.
Been there to the
Wait,
trials.
which one are we talking about? I was thinking
Two dogs.
Two dogs.
Oh, okay. I was thinking the burnt vehicle situation.
Oh.
But yeah, 2 dogs is fun and interesting as well. Not fun, but interesting.
Yeah, it's not fun, and we usually don't cover recently occurring murders, unless there's, like the Christmas.
Jared
thing,
sat in the
obviously.
courtroom, though. I think he has some cool
so we can
anecdotes.
get into that. I'll intro it real quick. The headlines: Judge expected to deliver a verdict in 2 dogs Fasaga. Fasaga?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay. Murder case next week. The trial for 2 dogs Salvador Fasaga is in recess until Friday. This is this coming Friday, at which time Judge Andrew Toynbee is expected to deliver a verdict. He is accused of fatally shooting Paul Snarsky, also known as Hound, at Fasaga's place on May 11th or 12th, 2018, then dismembering his body and having others dispose of his remains and stuff. Pretty gruesome case. Crawler, you were in there. What's Fasaga like?
I was in there multiple times. He likes to look at the camera and smile at it when I'm in there reporting on the stories, which is interesting.
Unsettling?
A little unsettling, but I'm just there to take photos of what I see, and I've seen some people commenting on our Facebook like, "Oh, you shouldn't take photos of him smiling," but I mean, I'm just there to document what I see. So,
I mean, it may or may not be a good thing to have a recent image of a possibly acquitted murder suspect. It's like I think it might be good to have those photos out and about.
People might want to know what he looks like. Yeah.
And so, I've been there on multiple days of that trial. They're expecting to get a verdict on Friday after Judge Toynbee goes through all the documents, which he's got a lot of interesting evidence to go through. The defense during their closing arguments was basically like, well, you can only really get him for manslaughter, really, because, I mean, look at the gun he was using. It was all kind of soldered up, and it didn't really look like it would work. So if he pointed it at him, he might not have even thought that it was going to work. So
Seems
the
like
best
a
you
kinda
could do is
thin defense.
manslaughter.
It's a little thin. They had the eyewitness earlier in the week, the woman that Snarchky showed up with, and that was the oddest part of the case to me, which
absolutely.
Isabel gave me a little more context and made it make sense, but she witnessed the murder and, was held at gunpoint herself, I believe, or
Yeah.
at least ordered to
At least
get
that
on
is
the
her
floor.
testimony,
It's her testimony,
allegedly.
right?
I don't know if he ever pointed the gun at her, but right after he allegedly shot the dude, he ordered everyone onto the ground
Right.
before she basically offered to help because he
And then
was in there
became
with a
his
gun,
girlfriend.
so. Yes,
Yeah.
and
At that
then they
point.
had a romantic relationship after that.
Did she, did I hear she mouthed the words "I love you" to him in court?
Yes, that's another thing that maybe a lot of people not there wouldn't have got to see. But as she was walking out of the courtroom, she turned to two dogs who I don't even think looked her direction, but she mouthed the words "I love you" towards him after the testimony.
Very
Gross.
interesting.
Yeah, very weird, nasty, and appalling in some cases. I thought Emily Fitzgerald's done a good job writing it up in a way that passes the Cheerios test. So
Yeah.
What's the Cheerios
you
test?
should be able to read your morning paper eating your Cheerios without feeling nauseated.
That's fair. I figured that's what it was.
Yeah.
I just wanted the listeners to know.
I don't know if
Yeah.
that's a real thing or just something the old man teaching at my journalism school made up.
I have never sat in the courtroom during a murder trial before. I'd been to a couple civil things, but this is really very interesting stuff. The other thing that makes it unique is it's a bench trial, so it's just the judge deciding. So he has the next week, and then probably it's Judge J. Andrew Toynbee. He'll probably decide on Friday, so we'll have more coverage after that happens. Whether he decides or not, there will be a story that comes out probably Friday morning.
We used to get a lot more trials, including like murder trials, because the previous prosecutor would take a lot more, at least my impression and what I've been told, would take a lot more of them to trial, which can be very, very expensive. And there are reasons not to. There's reasons to find a plea. But Aaron, do you remember John Allen Booth Jr. out in Salcombe?
Yeah.
This was the triple homicide. And
Was this the one where the witness ran up to our window late one night? And
there was
the office window, not like the house you and I cohabitated at the time's window.
John Booth shot and killed 3 people in the head, execution style.
His name was John Booth.
It was.
Yeah.
All the jokes have been made. Denise Saltz also got shot in the head. She lived. And then this one guy crawled out a window, and his first thing he did was come start knocking on our window in the newsroom. Yeah. And he was like, "There's been a murder." And we were like, "You should
Go
probably
to
tell
the
the
police."
cops. You should tell the cops." It's
right across the street.
Denise Saltz survived that one, and so she was able to testify, and that was probably the most
Holy
intense
cow.
trial I've been at. And I talked to her in the parking lot afterwards, and I have no idea where she's at these days, but
Holy cow.
he was very volatile, and he knew he was going away. So, I remember they asked, and this is a language warning, but they asked him if he had anything to say, and he just turned around and flipped off the families and said, "Yeah, fuck you."
Whoa.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Whoa. Oh, I have been thinking recently, we should have something on our voicemail or something that's like, if this is an emergency, hang up and dial 911.
That is something we might should have.
Yeah, it's crazy how, not it's very often, but it is crazy that people will go to, the news before the police on occasions.
Yeah, I agree.
We can't
Or before
help,
getting an attorney in some occasions.
We can't
so I
help
think
you.
that too.
I would love to, but...
And for the record, I appreciate that.
Yeah, Jared wants to be there, but...
Judge Toynbee is going to deliver a verdict in this case, so he's basically got all week to think about it. Do you think he's thinking about it? He's obviously also thinking about it outside of the office. And I guess my question is, do you guys imagine a scenario where he's doing something very interesting and comes to a decision? Between now and then? I was going to think maybe
he's in the shower.
And he's
actually, I'm assuming his son was there because his son's girlfriend was there with Judge Toynbee's younger daughter. So I at least know that some of his family members did go to the concert, so he might have.
So he could have potentially been watching Instagram reels of the concert and been like, you know what? I've made up my mind.
We don't have many bench trials, usually jury trials, but as soon as I heard he was going to have a week to think about it for some reason, well, you know the reason, but I imagined him in the back of a twin transit bus wearing a beanie, having his headphones on, and just writing out his decision while he's just kind of rocking.
8 Mile.
8 Mile style.
That's funny. Judge Toynbee actually does those like tap classes at Thorbeck's with my mom occasionally. So maybe he'll be like exercising and it comes to him.
I saw he was running in the drug court 5K as well, if I recall correctly. That was pretty cool.
Cool. Next news item. Dagodi Bulb Farm in Mossy Rock is shutting down. The owners hope to sell, but have no buyer. The farm has been a Mossy Rock staple for almost 50 years. It's closing this summer, and the current owners, brothers Jack and Bob Dagodi, are retiring. It's a 168-acre parcel. The 160-acre parcel it sits on is still currently for sale. The brothers said there have been queries by interested buyers, but no serious sale discussions have started yet.
You guys want to buy it?
I don't know.
No. I do want to highlight this completely sourced from Business to Business, the Duvall publication. We made many, many attempts to reach them to get this story because we knew it was happening. And for whatever reason, we weren't able to get through to the right people. But I just want to make sure Business to Business gets the credit for that story.
I feel like they've always been a little wishy-washy about actually talking to reporters.
I mean, I've never found that. I've found that they've been very open over the years to the point where we did our annual. They stopped doing tulips a few years ago, but when the tulips were in bloom, we'd go out and do full photo spreads every year. I think you got in on that before they got rid of them, right?
Yeah, like one of the last years they did tulips, I went down there and they were happy to have me take.
Well, they'd always send like a box full of tulips to the newsroom afterwards to just kind of hand out to everyone. So we had a pretty good relationship with them. I hope somebody buys it and keeps it going.
I think that goes with the retirement. It's just it was hard to keep up with those tulip fields, so that's part of the reason they stopped doing it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think it's always something funny about that, like with every like real estate sale or whatever, people tend to be more quiet about it because they don't want to have to like get any prices out like in the public, because then you have like a war that's stuck on this one number or something. Like, I don't know. People tend to be more sensitive about that sort of thing, I've found.
I agree.
Yeah. Next item.
Maybe we did something to anger them. Who knows?
I don't.
No, I just remember, like, I'm sure they're great. I just remember calling for a story years and years ago when I was a newsroom reporter and asking to talk to one of them, and they were like really cagey and wanted to review everything they said and like just didn't want to do it. They were fine with pictures. They just didn't want to do an interview or anything. Oh. Maybe they just didn't like me. I don't know.
I was just going to say that. I think they just didn't like you. Brian Watson, our chief ad executive, had a nice post about them. I guess it was one of his first accounts. He's been here about as long as I have. Yeah. A long time.
Mossy Rock man.
Mm-hmm. He is a Mossy Rock man and a Kentucky man.
Yeah. Next item. Lewis County boasts cost-saving updates to jail. Chief among these updates is a new HVAC system that could save the county more than $50,000 a year. The upgrade replaces equipment that's been in use since 2005 and brings the jail in line with state energy codes. This is all from a press release, and I'm assuming that in the press release, state energy codes was written in the alternating cap style of the SpongeBob meme, with the implication to pronounce it state energy codes.
No, actually, I will say that is not what it said. It's just they like added that as one small line and like, oh, and it's also up to code or whatever. And I was like, I'm pretty sure that's a main reason why you're replacing it. So I wanted to make sure that was kind of like very noticeable. I don't even think they said like state energy codes, but said something about the code. And I was like, I don't think you're just replacing it because you feel like that's a good thing. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh. Okay.
It just felt like important context.
The upgrades will improve the quality of working for correctional officers, the news release said. It did not mention benefits for inmates. Who threw that on there?
That was me.
Oh, that was good.
I mean, they talked about how it would improve it would improve the quality of work for the people who work there. The people who stay there, they didn't say anything about. And so I figured that was also worth saying because maybe it doesn't actually improve those conditions. And maybe it does, but they didn't say it.
It also didn't mention the sheriff's office's top cost-saving measure for the jail, which is not arresting murder suspects.
No.
Bazing.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't in the story.
Do you guys want to talk about the commissioners urging the library to put a rating system on kids' books?
You can tell by your notes that you certainly do.
I'm torn.
Oh, just go for it.
The Seattle Times did pick up this story.
It's worth talking about.
Yeah, we missed it last week, but this is a pretty big waste of time. Either of you, feel free to jump in at any point through this. The commissioners basically, they're writing a letter to the library about, hey, what if you rated your books?
They're
No.
sending it to their local trustees, one of which is Brian Mitke.
Yes. They're not writing the letter to everyone, but just to their representatives. I thought they knew their place in this, right? Like, they get to have a political opinion, but then at least, like, as I mentioned, Swope in the story is like, it's not our place to go tell the library they need to do their policy or whatever. It's just our place to tell our trustees this is what we want because we appointed these people. And I thought, like, it's within the channels of what they are meant to be able to do.
Sure. It's also kind of like a fat stranger seeing you order a burger being like, hey, maybe you should eat healthy. Or like your neighbor who just has a entirely dilapidated house full of garbage being like, hey, man, maybe you should mow your lawn. Like they've got bigger problems. They've got 3 big pending lawsuits at least. Maybe there's more. And all of those could have been avoided with decent management. And they're sitting here telling the library like, hey, here's what you need to do about books.
Okay.
It's just a fucking waste of time.
I get what you're saying. Like, I don't have particular like feelings about the content of the letter necessarily. I mean, I think it was political when it was brought up. I think maybe it's probably less so after it's been signed on by all the commissioners and they're like, yeah, I guess they could do that sort of thing, whatever. But I think like they're more than allowed and elected to have these sorts of things, especially if their constituents brought up concerns with them about them. And Brian Mickey even said when I was like interviewing him about it, yeah, I've had a couple people talk to me about concerns with like kids' access to books. And like I said, I'm not like defending or pro or anti the content of the letter. I'm just like trying to give you their perspectives as best I can.
Were those people Sean Swope and his friend Don Grope and his other friend John Nope?
What?
I'm going to have a bit of a nuanced take on this as well, because if there was such a rating system and I do take my kids to the library, I would use it. Like if I saw something my kid had in his hand and it was R, it's not like I'm going to ignore that.
But they do already have age recommendations.
I know. Like I'm just
Also-
saying, I'm not like violently opposed to this. I saw some people really worked up about it online, and I get that. But for me, I thought they were more measured than I thought they were going to be too. I thought the commissioners were going to come into the TRL with a really big, strong-worded letter and make a huge deal out of it. It was a relatively short letter.
No, that's what I'm saying. I think
So-
it was within like their boundaries, is what I said.
Yeah.
That's what
No,
I
I
was
agree with
trying
you.
to express.
I agree with you. I was sharing that I also
Yeah.
don't have strong feelings one way or the other.
There's already a pretty foolproof system in place to keep your kids from reading something you don't want them to read at the library, which is to talk to them.
No, that doesn't work. I used to go to the library.
First, there's so many different things you could attack here. Like the coolest possible, they compare it to like movie ratings. The coolest possible movie to see when you're a kid is an R-rated movie. So you throw an R rating on these books, the kid's going to be like, ooh.
I think what
That's
is,
actually a decent point. It will highlight the problem
Yeah.
content.
And just wait till they find out about the erotic fiction section.
I think the problem that I see with this is the discretion as to like what goes into this. I mean, if as you can see in the story, the like content of the letter was sort of brought up in this post by Sean Swope that was saying like he was taking issue with the content of a pamphlet that was like LGBTQ resources for kids. And, there are probably a lot of parents who think that's not like, shouldn't be age
It was
restricted.
specifically like the line that said that your reading list will be private. The things
Right.
you're reading are private.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And it was actually Chris Rust had a really interesting comment. The former Toledo superintendent had something to say about like, there's a difference between giving your kids privacy and like encouraging them to have secrecy, right? Like there are boundaries we want to be able to talk about a lot of stuff, but we also know there are things that our kids aren't going to want to talk to us about. That doesn't mean that they're keeping secrets from us necessarily. I thought that was like a nuanced take, but anyways, back to what I was saying is just that I think it becomes difficult if we're just going to say like, well, this is a thing that's related to LGBTQ education, or this is something related to like sex ed or something. Like there are certain aspects of those things that probably most people in the world would want to talk to their kids about at some point, like if they're very young. And then there are probably other aspects of each of those things that you wouldn't want to talk to your kids about. And I think it would be hard to like make the like board of trustees for the Timberland Regional Library in charge of deciding where that content is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the only thing I think is just obviously like having involved parents is always going to be the best method of like government taking care of your children.
Yeah, and like if your biggest concern is your kid coming out of the closet, like, and you're going to the library over it, like, I don't know. Find a new angle of doing things. Jesus Christ. Anyway, I will ask you all, when in history has anyone ever complained about books and not looked like a big old bucket of turds? Anybody?
I don't know. Isabel didn't look too bad when she was complaining about your infatuation with forest porn.
Where's my forest porn infatuation?
You were talking about how you always used to go out into the woods and find pornography.
Those were magazines, sir.
It's a written word.
That's literature. That's literature.
Yeah, I actually just read the story, so.
Yeah, I could complain for a while about Harry Potter, so.
I'll tell you this, though. If you do have some adult content to hide out in the woods, if you want it to last the test of time, you're going to need to have a roof over the top of that adult's content.
And what should you do if you need that?
You got to call your boys over at the Roof Doctor at 360-736-0246. Get a free estimate. You just call them up and be like, look, I got a killer porn stash out in the woods. I need it protected from the elements. I don't need walls, though. I want to be able to come and go as I please. And I want everybody to be able to come and go as they please. And I am not putting a rating on the pornography I leave out in the woods, despite what the commissioners in the library want.
I feel like the Roof Doctor's going to hate this.
I don't think so.
I think they'll get a kick out of it because it's all about a good roof.
Head on over to theroofdoctor.com. You can sign up to get a free estimate right from the site, or if you don't want to deal with the form, you can make a phone call. Lots of different options. The estimates are free too, so they'll come out to your forest and examine the area you need protected and tell you how much.
Whatever
it's
kind
cost.
of magazines they are.
Yeah, whatever kind of magazines.
Maybe they're just Sports Illustrated.
Yeah, latest rated R jams from TRL.
Yeah, there you go. Anyway, yeah, I hope Old Man Library wads that letter up and throws it right in the recycling bin.
Well, you weighed in on this too, didn't you, Aaron?
Oh,
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You sent a letter to your representatives.
I sent an email, an electronic message, dashed it off one morning.
Okay, speaking of old men, I was saying last week how we haven't talked about Old Man Transalta in a while, and Schwartz said, oh, but we can talk about him next week because you're going to that update with the PUD about the hydrogen facility. Now, we don't have to talk about this story necessarily, but I did want to bring it up that there is an update on the hydrogen facility in last week's Thursday paper. If you'd like to read it, it's just the Fortescue future industry people who are planning to move into like where Transalta is, updating the PUD about just various aspects of their planning, and they are now estimating that they'll have hydrogen being made at the facility in like 2028, I think. So there's your update there.
Excellent.
Do you think right after Old Man Transalta signed the papers with big hydrogen, he's just like, you're going to fail, and then he left?
Yeah, I think old man Transalta has plenty to retire off.
I think he's doing fine, yeah. Anyway, with that, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back.
Hi, this is Jasek from Summit Funding. Here's what a recent client is saying about us.
Hi, this is Chad Taylor. Have you been thinking about purchasing or refinancing your current home? The team at Summit Funding is the best in class. Looking for a conventional FHA, VA, USDA, jumbo, or even a reverse mortgage? Trust the team at Summit Funding. Coralie and I did, and we couldn't be happier.
Thank you to all of our past clients. If you have any questions, give us a call at 360-330-4037.
All right, we're back. It's time for segments. First up is Tales from the Takes page. And our first entry is a letter to the editor titled Cause for Concern on the Skookumchuck Commerce Center. I read this letter, and I agree. It is concerning.
Now, Aaron, you know how I feel about NIMBYism. I get exhausted with the not in my backyard crowd, but not in my backyard.
God damn right.
This is
Keep
gonna
the hell
flood
out
the
of
watch.
the Skookumchuck area. This is terrible.
Build this somewhere. Put it in Chehalis somewhere. Come on.
Yeah, let them do some flooding for a while.
Oh
Ridiculous.
my gosh. Oh gosh.
No, so this is like, we haven't even had a story on it yet, but these were two very well-researched letters for obviously people that would be affected by it, but they're talking about 1 million square feet in raised, elevated warehouse space. And the area they're planning for it is the area where I was evacuated by Chad from the last flood down Reynolds Avenue, where you can see a river of water trying to make its way to the Chehalis River, like under the interstate. And yeah, I have a feeling that the flood would not just go up to my doorstep if that's built there, but we'll report on it fairly.
Yeah, I don't like the idea of filling in that part of the floodplain.
I mean,
specifically the part that could
Stoep
affect
flows. And they made a pretty decent point for there is the levee that protects downtown Centralia, but it's not a given that the water's never going to get over that or bust through it. And pushing back that volume of water, I'm not a hydrologist or anything, but I guess we'll see what happens.
me. Why don't you build your warehouse in the middle of the river?
It's going to be real awkward for the reporter when I'm there, all my glory holding a sign at the city council meeting. Not
in
here,
my backyard.
not now. Just making all sorts of erroneous claims.
Yeah, or just, you know what, build it on stilts.
I'm gonna show up with like a pocket gopher in a jar and be like, I found this down at the site.
Just show up with some arrowheads. Like, I think this is a Native American
It's just
historical
like
site.
an actual gopher
Just a
in my
Photoshop
pocket.
picture of George Washington out there. Be like, actually, this was his house.
This was a part of the UGA thing, right?
I believe so.
When we
Yes,
first wrote about
yes.
it, it was in that bit about them expanding a little bit. So there was already some backlash to the idea when we first posted about that. But now that these letters have come in, like, I think that we've been spurred to take a closer look at it, which is, another testament to write those letters. We love it.
Yeah, it's very rare that letters get ahead of the coverage. Normally, it's in response to the coverage. I always do appreciate when people let us know about something like this that is early enough in the permitting that it could have not come before the full city council yet.
Sure.
And could easily be missed, but not if you're paying attention. So we'll have something soon on that, hopefully, next week is my plan anyways.
That reminds me, before I forget, I don't know why, but just about people like paying attention to the paper, you will notice that we switch headline styles starting.
Oh, do we want to go over this now?
Yeah,
There's not much to go over.
in this next edition of the paper, you will see that we are going by, I guess, modern.
Yeah, it's just regular headline style. We've used New York Times style, which is to capitalize the first letter in most words more than 4 or more letters long. We capitalized verbs as well, so like be and is, you would notice was capitalized. And what we have found over time is not only does one of our newspapers not have that style, the Reflector, just regular headlines, proper nouns are capitalized, names, that kind of thing.
In the first word, because it's the start of a sentence.
So Jessica Keller, our new regional editor that we talked about last week, brought it up at the NVN, and it's important to me that she feels ownership over the papers. So I was like, yeah, you can change that at Nisqually Valley News. And then because we share a bunch of stuff, I thought, let's just do it for the Chronicle all at the same time. And I don't know. I've never seen anyone confused by regular headline style, and I have seen people confused, like, why are you SpongeBobbing all these headlines?
Yeah.
And no one knew how the hell to do it outside of like 2 people here, anyways, 3 maybe.
Yeah.
So
I'm excited about it for sure, especially because I often will like kind of convert stories slightly to run into NVN or in the Reflector, and it's just one less step, honestly.
Oh, you can select all 3 websites when you post, and it makes sense.
Yeah. Also, you like, I just think it looks less. I just think it looks less like
Clunky.
yeah.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah, I noticed the Olympian does both. Just as a comparison.
Oh gosh.
No. So it's separated. I actually kind of like it in a way because some of it's like their sponsored posts. So like they're advertisers or they have like a affiliate of some sort that's doing like business news. But all that stuff is New York Times style, and then their own stuff is lowercase. So you can kind of tell the difference, which might be useful. I don't know, for a consumer.
I was ready to fight you on it and argued on Slack about it. Mostly because I fear change and I like to argue with you on style matters.
Likewise.
But then I was putting together the sports pages the other night and copying and pasting things off our wire service.
Yeah,
real time.
wired.
I was like, oh my God, my hands feel so much better at the end
None
of all
that
this.
copy.
Yeah, that's what I was saying too.
Yes,
It's just,
for
it's a time
listeners,
saver.
we are all sitting there like mimicking typing on
they're
our
putting
fake
their hands
computers.
up and down like as if they're typing, but
took it-
like
we're
it's
going
more of like a
typing. Look at this
slamming,
extra
clunky thing.
Yeah, typing like cavemen. Anyway, also on Tales from the Takes page, Brian Mickey wrote a column celebrating Centralia's founder. It's about George Washington, a black pioneer.
Yeah, there's going to be like a 10-minute short doc on KBTC public television focused on it. So they interviewed him, Max Vogt, a few other people.
A lot of
And,
locals.
Yeah.
I think that's great. You know, this might be a good place just to, we don't have to talk a lot about it.
Yes,
But
we should talk about it. I was just going to
Isabel,
say that.
you made a recent George Washington discovery.
Yeah,
It's not been published.
I was just going to say, this is something that we haven't put in the paper yet because it's not been fully verified. Just to back up a little bit, I think it deserves this context. If you've ever heard of the Wild Man of the Wainuchi,
Oh man, that's some context.
yeah. We haven't talked about this on here, right? I mean, I know I've talked.
We've talked about the Wild Man, but
Okay, I
But
know
not
I've
this.
talked about this with you guys, but whatever. Yeah, so there's a guy who was in that bicycle story that came out all wonky on print. We talked about that a while ago. Vern, I think. He has family members who were killed, or at least one family member who was killed by the Wild Man of the Wainuchi. You don't have to know who that is for this to be
Google
interesting.
it. Google it.
He ended up being buried with other members of the guy's family, and he was buried in the cemetery that's over by St. Mary's, which is the
The George Washington Cemetery. The George Washington Lawn Cemetery.
Oh, yeah, okay, Washington Lawn. I knew that you knew the name of it. And so Vern was saying to me, like, I'll call you when I have more information about this. It's just kind of an interesting tale about his family. And he called me a little while ago and said, like, whoa, you probably don't want to print this, or like maybe this isn't going to make it in the paper, but I learned this weird thing when I was looking back on the history of this cemetery. So it's like been known that George Washington donated that land to the city for a cemetery. But then I didn't know, and probably a lot of people didn't know, according to this thing that he found, and like I said, haven't verified fully, but that the deed, the like gifting, was you can have this cemetery as long as no like Chinamen nor Indians are buried here.
Which is just really shocking.
Yeah.
Because of what he faced as the son of an enslaved man.
Yeah, the whole thing is just like, whoa.
Well, again, we haven't verified it yet, so it's just an interesting possibility. And at some point, I think it doesn't negate everything else he did.
No, of course not.
It speaks to the time in some ways, just like a lot of poor history does.
Yeah.
It was just very surprising to hear.
It was surprising for me. I think it's really easy. It's really easy for me, at least, to pin kind of Centralia's general, like, inclusive feeling on this, like, founder who really valued that. And of course, that has its value. It has its place. But I also think, like, history in that sense it's also valuable and it's real. And knowing like that there's also a history here of, race issues. Obviously, George Washington faced them all the time. Mm-hmm. And like just different plights, I think, is also an important piece of that. And when I heard that, I was just so surprised, and it's very interesting.
I got breaking news here, unrelated. Last
Is it about
night,
the wild man of the Wainuchi?
No, it's about a bunny.
Are you reading about him?
Yeah.
Last night,
Sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Freelancer Hallie Rawls, who's worked here off and on over the years, just had a post about a bunny. She was trying to find like a stuffed bunny. So I was like, I'm looking for stuff to post. It's Sunday. We're running low. So I shared it and was like, can anyone find it? She just reported that someone has found the exact same bunny.
Oh,
Said bunny located. So
that's so exciting.
Mm-hmm. So exciting.
Saved by the Chronicle.
I don't know if we even helped.
You know
but
what?
We'll see.
I choose to believe we did, given no other information.
Speaking of Facebook posts, does that bring us to Sirens Bangers of the Week?
Great transition,
Oh, it is bangers
caller.
today. There's
We do
multiple.
have some bangers in here this week. All right, first up, we've got a man who called 911 to report his Facebook had been hacked, but then said, quote, he's not entirely sure what he's trying to report. Officers advised him to copy, paste, and update their status with, I do not give Facebook or any entities associated with Facebook permission to use my pictures, information, or posts, both past and future.
Tell me you're a senior citizen without telling me you're a senior citizen.
That
last part's not real.
They didn't actually throw that in there, but I just like that he called the police. I've been hacked.
There was one in today's Sirens. Let's see, it's not on here, I don't think. No, there was a report today of someone that called to say someone had downloaded child porn on his computer, but then he would not pick up the phone when the police were trying to call him back.
Uh-huh.
I know, that's what I thought too. I was just like, I maybe got momentarily shook, but...
So this next one, a reporting party told Chehalis police their maintenance worker was, quote, hiding under the bed when they got home. The door was kicked in when they got there in Chehalis. Law enforcement arrested the man, and he was booked into the jail. 9 times out of 10, when someone's hiding under the bed when you get home, it's because they've just been in the bed. And I don't mean in the Goldilocks way.
Their front door was kicked in. Their front door was kicked in. Do you think that he kicked it in to go have an affair with someone?
Just kicked the door in.
I don't think so.
He was like, lumberjack.
I'm just wondering how they found him. Everyone knows the best place to hide is underneath the bed.
Well, he'll never be hiding there again.
What is that?
Are they building a tire pile?
Tire pile?
No.
Maybe the United Learning Center is finally getting built.
Ooh.
Bird.
Man, you know
That
what?
was
We haven't
scalding.
gotten an update on that in a while.
I know, since the groundbreaking.
Gonna have to
No,
talk about that.
we haven't got an update since we were told we won't get an update for another year or two.
Okay. Well, you know, until then, we can continue to park out there and have as many tire piles as we please.
Yes.
Yeah. I've learned more from the tire pile than I ever learned from the United Learning Center.
You're also not a youth.
The United Learning Center should have a tire pile.
As we
just
talked
for the
about last
record.
week, not a youth.
Definitely not. And finally, this last one hasn't even entered the Sirens realm yet, but it was added to the Chronicle Slack. It's just an affidavit, I guess.
Yeah, it's probable cause.
On or about July 23rd, a Napavine police officer, David Sims, was dispatched to a drug violation at the Napavine High School baseball fields. The call note stated there is a male subject with a neck brace holding up a large bag of weed, asking people if they want weed. Officer Sims called the reporting party, who described the suspect as wearing a SpongeBob shirt and said he was last seen walking towards Woodard Road.
The witness is the mayor, by the way.
Yeah.
Sean
Yes.
O'Neill.
The mayor called Officer Sims back a few minutes later and said he located the suspect in the 100 block of 3rd Avenue, and the suspect tried to sell him weed.
I didn't see that part.
I mean, is that a crime? Guy's just got a he wasn't even trying to sell it. Well, until later, I guess. But
oh, that's really funny.
The guy sounds awesome to me. I mean,
he's just like, hey, he wants some
SpongeBob
weed.
shirt, selling weed to cops, neck brace.
I'm just imagining him as Danny McBride on Pineapple
That's the
Express.
same thing I thought of.
Yeah.
Very.
Thug life. And then People's Champion of the Week. You wanted to throw the donkey that beat up a judge.
Oh, that donkey's he's the people's champion of the week.
I've got Michael Howard, who is 19 years old and took over Ani Hardware and General Mercantile.
That's fair.
That post was blowing up on Facebook.
Yeah, people like that story. It's very well read.
I knew they would.
There's
Yeah.
nothing more on Alaska than a 19-year-old just turning it back to like 1850 and taking over the local General Mercantile.
No, I thought it was cool.
I love it, yeah.
I thought it was cool. I thought it was cool how he homeschooled, finished school early. He was just ready to work.
Yeah.
So, it reminds me a little of my nephew.
This business feature is also how so many business features come in from like really appreciative local customers. It's the best. People are like, please do a story on this place. I love it there, you know?
Anyway, Ani Hardware and General Mercantile is on Brim Road, just south of Highway 12. Michael Howard knew the previous owner, heard she was selling, and so he got a hold of her. He had started working retail previously at Ed's Morton Auto Parts. And I just want to ask, what were all of you doing at 19?
Jared
Would
was
you?
working at the Chronicle.
Hey, Crawler, you're doing
I was
what you're
working
doing
at
right
the
now.
Chronicle as well.
I was several years off from working at the Chronicle. And I tell you
too.
what, me at 19, I would have taken that place directly into financial ruin.
We were on our way anyways.
I too was not working at the Chronicle.
The Chronicle was already in financial ruin when I was
Hey,
working here at 19.
How dare you? How dare you? Take it back, Crawler. Sturdy, these walls. Pats
Yeah.
the Chronicle like a wooden ship.
This baby can hold so many rats and asbestos.
I do have to note, just to finish that thought that Crawler threw out, that our situation has greatly improved since Chad and Corley Taylor
Very much
purchased
so.
us in 2021.
It's got a new
So,
camera.
yeah, nice camera. Yeah.
Let's make no mistake. They saved this paper.
Yeah, they did.
They saved it.
We're
And
in such good financial straits that Crawler can lose an endless supply of drones and the lights stay on.
hey, actually, the last one was Chad. He flew into the window.
Oh, yeah.
here.
While covering the flood. It was my window. He was trying to get a zoom in of me working at my desk.
Which is really funny.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
He was out there working. It was great. But no, yeah, they did. They certainly did save the paper. That's the simplest way to say it. And it's a lot stronger than it's been in a very, very long time.
I felt that way before I started working here. I mean, I saw the paper. I saw what it was before they bought it, and I saw afterwards. And
Yeah.
it did not take a long time for it to be so much better. But then once I started working here, it became just all the more abundant, especially talking to you guys. And I'm not trying to like throw shade or anything. I've only been here in the Taylor era, so I don't really have anyone to throw shade toward. I just think that like I know that I feel very grateful to them, more even as a community member than as an employee of theirs. Like I just am glad that the Chronicle is here.
Also, I would say that the era that Crawler and I experienced, and Aaron not to an extent, you did. I think that was inspiring as a survival story.
Yeah.
Because things got really bad, and a lot of people stretched themselves to keep us around long enough for someone to swoop in and save us like the Taylors did.
Including
So,
the two of you.
yeah, I agree. I was thinking more of Jared, but yes.
So hero of the week, are we going the young man who bought a hardware store or the
Or the
donkey
Chronicle?
who bit a judge?
Definitely the donkey.
Yeah, it's the donkey.
donkey.
Gotta be the
Poor-
donkey.
it's R.I.P. Michael
We
Howard.
never choose like the good one. We choose the funny one. That's
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah,
like our
that's
whole
true.
shtick.
This time we're going with the badass.
All right, Facebook comments of the week. I've only got a few.
Good.
On a post about Centralia Station, the ongoing construction, what's going on. Of course, we have the comment, we want a Texas Roadhouse and a Abby's Pizza. And then somebody replies, you, not we, which I thought was good.
What's a
We already
Texas
have the
Roadhouse?
Big Bottom Roadhouse.
Oh, yeah, we
That's
do,
true.
don't we?
What
Texas
is it?
Road, it's like a, like...
It's like a Sizzler?
No, it's like Olive Garden, but for Texas.
Okay.
That oddly makes sense to me.
Yeah. You get like a steak,
Wait.
but it's not like a good steak.
I think I might have gone to one when I went to
So like
Palm
an
Springs
Outback
last year.
Steakhouse.
You do
Yeah,
like a,
but they
you do
don't
like a
have
tour,
Australian accents.
tour of Fort Worth instead of like a tour of Italy.
But there's a bar, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm sure
yeah.
They got,
No,
yeah,
I
they
think
got drinks and shit.
I think I went to one.
I think they've got like buttermilk biscuits or something they bring around or something like that.
Okay.
And it's I don't know. It's a chain restaurant based around like what if you were in Texas?
Oh,
Yeah.
I like that, I guess. I've never been, so.
Well, you shouldn't like it. You're a woman anyway.
Oh my God.
It was a Texas joke.
Oh, buddy.
On a post about Centralia Station, another comment. Sure, after my mom passed and I moved away, Mom loved Winco.
Man,
Like,
you know,
how dare Winco not build a store when my mom could have
you
enjoyed
adding
it?
your tone to it. I read this
no,
as
no,
I read
yeah,
I read
exactly.
this as just like, sure, after my mom passed away, Mom loved Winco.
Yeah, no, I exactly feel the same way. I read it as like, darn, I wish my mom could have been here to see this.
Nobody comments in an appreciative milquetoast tone.
Oh,
Everybody
yes,
is
If
they
you
do.
angry
have
all
that
the
many
time.
feelings, of course you do. It's
they
like
do.
Who could possibly have that many feelings?
I'm only earnest
I
in my
got it.
posting.
I got engaged this year, and both my grandmas died last year. And you know the number of times where I thought, boy, do I wish my grandmothers were here to see this.
Well, getting engaged is different than Winco.
If his mom loved Winco that much, and it was something special that they did together, like they went together, and that's like how they shopped every Tuesday or something, of course you would feel that way.
Aaron's been soiled from years of reading the Chronicle comments.
He's so jaded.
I assume every comment is made with the illest of intents. Moving on to comments on the new i5 Chevy dealership building. First comment I loved. One more thing the 99% can't afford and just watch people fill at Costco as the rest eat ramen. Ma'am, this is a Chevy dealership, not a Maserati. And then there were dozens of "we don't need more car lots" comments, again, about an existing car lot moving like a half-mile west.
Also, you have to be extremely uninformed to have that take. Those dealerships are huge to city coffers. I mean, there's a reason Chehalis is balking at backing the 911 tax, because their share would be larger than Lewis County's and Centralia's, even though it's a smaller town, because they
of the
get
dealerships.
dealership money. Those dealerships pump hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars into the city of Chehalis.
By the way,
You
we
could make an argument that most of the Twin Cities is somehow like 6 degrees of separation removed from financial dependence on
dealerships.
On the car dealerships
Yes.
over there.
No,
yes.
I 100% agree.
On the
I
I5
learned
Auto
that
Group.
young as a reporter. It's just like that. That's huge.
Yeah.
Like, it's absolutely huge.
By the way, it's already filled in.
Yeah, and there's validity behind it.
Well, they could have put. There were some other people that were like, "Well, why don't you put a park there? Yeah, right next to the
That would
freeway."
be a horrible spot for a park.
talking
Ooh,
about.
we love
We
the
have
sound.
parks you don't go to.
No, I think that's nothing but good news. It's what it seemed like to me if I'm a resident of Chehalis.
Yeah.
We're going to have our own little auto mall in Chehalis.
As long as they don't put it in the Skookumchuck River's path.
Yeah.
Looking at you, Skookumchuck Resource Center.
Keep it off Reynolds Road.
Okay.
Not in my backyard.
Anything else we haven't mentioned that is in tomorrow's newspaper with funky headlines?
They're not funky. They're
We
regular.
They
have
do look nice.
a story about not record, but like critical low flows in the Chehalis River Basin. We have a lot of really cool photos from Owen from over the weekend and like short write-ups to go with them. He went to the Hub City Cruisers car show and to the Kraken board shop skate thing. And then, of course, we were all there for Tenino's Oregon Trail Days. And so we have like a double truck of photos from that, I think, about. And yeah, a couple other like previews of upcoming events. There are a lot of events right now. And then in tomorrow's paper, Thursday's paper, we'll probably have more sad things. It sounds like Emily had a pretty stocked prelim list tonight.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of crime over the weekend.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I think that's
the long and short of it. Forgive us. We're under construction at cronline.com because now you're going to see both headline styles until I can flesh out all the content on the homepage. So promise we know it. And I am definitely going to screw up, and you're going to see some capital headlines somewhere because I've been doing this way for like 15 years. So
Yeah.
yeah.
In closing, we are sponsored by Summit Funding and the Roof Doctor, and I will remind you that the library is one of the few good, wholesome things our tax dollars fund. Please leave it the hell alone and don't politicize it.
unless you live in Morton, am I right?
True. If you want to leave us a review, we have that option on Apple Podcasts, I guess, or send Schwartz an email at news@cronline.com.
I mean, the library is political.
Well, it shouldn't be.
I'm just saying, it is. Like,
Yeah,
it
but-
has been before this.
No, before this, it was supposed to be controversial because they wanted to rob Amanda Park of its
They
library
wanted
and
to
park it in
take
Randall.
their library and put it in
Literally
Randall.
drive it away.
Literally.
And move it somewhere else.
Yes, that.
Anyway, leave the library alone.
For Aaron.
For me specifically. Good night.